Okay, we are moving right along. The next bit of our agenda is something that kind of came up when we were planning our meeting early on, or planning meetings early on in 2021. What can we do for our residents? And if you haven't noticed, there's something going on with the housing market, not only in Salt Lake City, but in Utah and even across the whole nation. I saw a statistic a couple of days ago that said there are more realtors than there are houses for sale in the United States right now. So there were the shortage issues, their prices are going up, people are paying cash, there's a lot of rumors throwing around. So we decided to bring in some local experts to help us understand what's going on with the Salt Lake City housing market. I want to turn the conversation over to Jeff Larson, who is our board member, who put this panel together. And Jeff, can you introduce the panelists or panel? I think Monique's here. I don't see Jeff, but we'll figure things out and we'll keep going. So well, let me go ahead real quick and ask Monique to introduce herself. She's one of the local real estate experts we've got here. Monique, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been a realtor in the Salt Lake area?
Yeah, so I grew up in District 5. I've lived in District 5 for at least 80% of my life, kind of closer to Wayne's Corner and State Street, and then, all the way up the hill. So I've lived here my whole life. I went to the University of Utah. I got my real estate license in 2002, right after graduating college. And I've primarily sold in our district, kind of the 9th and 9th, University, Sugar House, Liberty Wells areas.
Got it. Jeff, how is your audio? I'm hearing there are some issues with the audio here.
Can you hear me better now?
It is better now. Can everyone, thumbs up, thumbs down on audio right now? We should do an audio check. How are we? Are we good? Okay, good. Jeff, so take it away. I think we can hear you pretty well.
Thanks for being here, Monique. We appreciate you agreeing to help out tonight. And Jeff David is here tonight as well, under the guise of iPhone. So if Jeff, do you want to introduce yourself briefly?
I'm going to need to make him a co-host so that he can actually talk. He was secretly there and I didn't know he was there. So now he can talk.
Yeah, sorry, I tried to change my name from iPhone and I can't figure it out. So Jeff David, when I saw that I'd be on here with Monique, I've seen her and her husband's name a lot, so I figured I could be second chair. But so I live just on Lincoln Street, just about 2.5 blocks east of Liberty Park, just 13th South 9th East area. Everyone seems to know Koi Piercing Studio, and I have lived here since 2002 and got my real estate license in 2003. And as you know, I kind of did 3 counties for a while, and as time has gone on, just more and more, and nothing has been as unique as the challenges of the past year. So thank you. It's good to be here. It's a crazy time.
And on to Jeff, and just briefly to introduce myself, like Jason mentioned, I am the neighborhood representative for East Emerson. I'm here in ELPCO. I also have been working in the trenches in the real estate industry. I work for a title company, so I help make you actually own your house when you buy one, and help you sell it when you're done living there. So, Monique and Jeff have graciously agreed to kind of this discussion tonight, and I'll just kick it off by kind of asking them to talk briefly about just our area and what values all along the East Bench of Salt Lake have done. Monique, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, I mean, very specifically, I pulled the stats on 84105, 84108, which really kind of encompasses the broad area that we're talking about. And values went up about 15% last year. I think this year it will be at least 20%. The last 2 months in the real estate market have been 3 times more intense than even last year. So, it's fierce. It's fierce out there. Our inventory is down about 60% from the same time last year. And for every house that's active on the market, there's 4 to 5 under contract. And so it's nearly impossible to get a house unless you have cash or significant amount of money down.
Yeah. Jeff, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just closed a deal a few weeks ago with somebody that had cash, almost $500,000, and still took us 4 contracts to close a home. So last year at this time, we usually see a large amount of homes coming on the market. As the grass gets greener, as the sun shines more, as the snow melts. Last year, the figures that I had was only 42%. I don't know if that was fear because of the pandemic, and we only had 42% of regular average annual inventory, and we have never caught that. So it has been a bloodbath.
Yeah, and so like you kind of alluded to this a little bit in those responses, but can you talk a little bit about what it would be like as a seller going through this home selling process right now, or as a home buyer going through that process right now, and kind of what are some of the things you're seeing along with the challenges that you mentioned with inventory, and multiply that by COVID and the other factors that we're facing right now?
Yeah, Jeff.
Go ahead, Monique.
So as a seller, I mean, as a seller, you're king. You can do whatever in the world you want, pretty much. You're going to get, well, if you're priced wrong or your house is terrible, you might get 2 offers. But I was beat out by 96 offers on a house a couple of months ago. So it's just incredible to be a seller. I've never seen a better time in 19 years to sell your house. I mean, I still prep my houses for sale, but your house doesn't have to be an amazing house. It just has to be priced right, and you have to allow people through it, and it's going to be sold in a weekend pretty much. So it's amazing to be a seller. It's much more difficult to be a buyer. As a buyer, my buyers are having to put in maybe 8 to 10 offers to even get something under contract. So it's pretty brutal. And cash offers win almost every single time. It seems like 9 out of 10 in our area that are winning our cash. And that's just brutal for the regular homeowner. We'll let Jeff take it away.
Yeah, so just one experience I had this week, Monique, I'm sure you go through this a lot. I had a couple reach out to me. They're ready to buy their first home. They just had a baby, and they are trying to get FHA. What FHA means is just a little bit down, like 3.5%. And their amount that they can buy is like $360,000. They're all excited. And so we have that little bit of a ethical dilemma as an agent. Like, how do I quell their excitement? Because I feel like there's no hope for them. I mean, there are in certain areas, way distant areas, but they've had an apartment here for a long time. And it's almost depressing for somebody that, like Monique said, if you don't have cash or you don't have a lot of money, you either inherited or sold another house. Around here, it's tricky. And our houses are old and they have issues. And so it's, as she said, though, it's fun to be a seller. When you get a call that someone needs to sell, you know, they're in the driver's seat.
Yeah, and that's the same thing we're seeing on the back end when we get those real estate purchase contracts. Is a lot of them are cash. A lot of them are ready to close quickly, and those kind of offers are very attractive to sellers. Those are the ones that are winning. And so, having said all that, where is this going? Is this Monique and Jeff? What do you think? Is this a bubble that is going to burst or plateau? Or Monique, you already talked a little bit about a projection for 2020, but what can you tell us of whether this is sustainable or not?
Well, I know nobody feels like it's sustainable, but I think this is going to hang around for a while. It's not a bubble from anything that I've researched. The conditions are completely different than they were in 2008. You know, my buyers, they're putting significantly more money down. They're buying significantly less than they can qualify for. And so if they lose their job or something happens, they'll sell their home. They're not going to walk away from their home. So we're not going to have, you know, a glut of foreclosures that will drive the prices down. So that's just not a reality at all, especially in our market, in my mind. That being said, you know, I think we're looking at 15 to 20% this year, and until inventory catches up or something happens, we're just going to keep on trucking like this. At least 30% of my buyers are from California and New York, from high cost areas. And so they come here and they're thrilled with what they can get for the money. So I don't see that changing anytime soon.
I wholeheartedly agree. The other day when I was driving around with my daughter, who's 11, I said, I can't believe how many Massachusetts license plates I'm seeing, and 2 New York. And so, and California, those just, you can't go a couple of blocks without seeing California. Is this a bubble? I highly doubt it. We may go into years, 2024 and stuff where we're not seeing the same amount of appreciation. But with all the people moving here and as solid as Utah's economy is and has been, And as Monique mentioned, 10 or before the recession 12 years ago, people were getting those adjustable rate mortgages, those no income, no asset loans. People actually have to be qualified now to buy their homes. And so that's the difference. So this housing market, crazy, I'm in downtown Sugar House right now, not far from where I live, and the amount of rents that these houses and these new condos, this is the way it'll be for a while.
Yeah, agree. And second, your comment about where the buyers are coming from. When it comes to close these transactions, all of them are either remote closing or they're flying in the week of closing to sign documents. And yeah, states you mentioned, Texas, California, Massachusetts, all of them. So I guess that's good news and bad news for an attractive place to live. So talk more specifically about people who may be watching this in ELPCO area. What are some things, if I'm considering selling my home, that we could be working on to improve the value of our home? I know it's pretty easy to sell it right now, but what's going to get us a bang for our buck if we want to improve, where we end up?
Yeah. Well, I think that basic maintenance is very much overlooked by people and is so much more important than people give it credit for. Just having everything tidy and painted and looking good and well maintained makes a huge difference in how a home shows. So just take care of the little stuff. Anything egregiously broken or that looks yucky, fix it. I mean, that's number one. Just keep it maintained. Number two, obviously, kitchens and bathrooms. That's what people care about. If they haven't been updated, at least do a minor update, but update according to the price point of your home. So if your home is worth $400,000, that kitchen should look very different than $1 million home. So it's easier for people to over or under improve properties when they're doing remodeling. So just, I would suggest being careful in that respect. And the other thing that I think is building an accessory dwelling unit or finishing that basement apartment, because homes have gotten so expensive here that that's a really attractive way for people, to move in and have part of their mortgage offset. And that happens a lot around here. There's a ton of basement apartments and accessory dwelling units being built. So that's my 2 cents.
Monique, that's very wise. The very next thing my wife and I are going to do, because we have alley access on our house, and is to do one of those garages with the ADU on the back. Still need to, decide how to come up with the money, but I wholeheartedly agree. And just to add a little tidbit, there's not much to add to that. This time of year, just make that yard look so nice. The grass green, it's edged. I saw my good friend Liz Payne post in the chat that, hey, we've outgrown our home. We'd love to move somewhere else, but we'd make a fortune on this one, but where do we go? I'd love to move up the hill like 15th and 15th, but my same house, if you just transplanted it, lifted up in 6 blocks, it'd be a couple $100,000 more just up the hill. So like she said, just make it look good. Don't miss the little things. I always have a cleaning crew go out, do a deep clean, take care of any big problems, make the yard clean. I always recommend to sellers, a lot of them just, hey, we're gonna do all this stuff ourselves. As a good agent, I feel like I just have all those people lined up. You can hire them and just get it all knocked out. And once you do those things, the houses just shine.
Yeah, great advice. Love it. So let's talk about a buyer now. Where are affordable houses available? I guess you can talk about whether there are any in ELPCO, but where would somebody need to go to find something? Take Jeff's buyer, for instance, that qualified in the 320s, I think he said, or just under 400. Where are we looking right now?
Well, I did see one last month, I think closed, and it was under 400,000, but I mean, it was really a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house that needed a lot of work that had no yard. So that's what exists for 400,000 in our area. The areas where I'm seeing most affordable housing is kind of the northwest quadrant of the valley, Rose Park, that type of area, but also West Valley, Magna, South Salt Lake, Poplar Grove, kind of all the gentrifying areas that are still kind of near the city center that are pretty run down. Those areas tend to be pretty affordable still. There are some available in West Jordan kind of area, and maybe Midvale, but very few other places can you get a home under 400,000. You're at least 500 or more.
Just last week, I closed for a seller, a house. Well, it was a townhome. It was 2,400 square feet, big townhome, two-car garage out. It was just across 2200 west from Salt Lake Community College in Taylorsville. We never even put it on the market. Word just spread. We had 3 offers, and it went very well, went very quickly. They were getting a loan, but they had sold us that they were indeed qualified, and they were, and that was a townhome. With $150 a month HOA fee. So if you want a home below 400, I think there's those little gems Monique mentioned you could kind of unpeel in certain areas. But honestly, what I've seen is it's not Cache, Weber County, the west side. The towns are escaping me right now. Far west, West Haven, and then Saratoga Springs and Eagle Mountain.
Right, if you go out of the county.
Out of the county, yeah. In the county, I'm struggling. I really am.
Yeah, yes, that is a struggle. We don't see very many things come across our desk and under contract under that amount. So, and I actually I live here in ELPCO, but I work up in Park City. So that's even fewer in that range. It's a studio apartment, if that. So mentioning studio apartments or ADUs you've brought up, what about investment properties? Is right now a good time to invest in real estate and I want to see an opportunity to make some money?
Well, that depends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rates are still historically low. They just took a big bump for investment rates. So you're really looking at 4% or more for an investment property now, but still there's properties out there that would cash flow if you have 25% down, because rates are still pretty reasonable. The challenge is actually getting a contract on a property. So, I would say if the stars align and you're actually able to get a contract and the numbers make sense, they're still out there. I have plenty of investors still buying. Unfortunately, the cash investors are doing a lot better than the financing investors. So, if it makes sense, now's the time. I think prices are just going to get higher and higher. So, if you jump in the market now, you're going to get another 15 to 20% this year and probably at least 10 for the next couple of years.
That's a great point. And I think, again, those gems, if you're going to buy a house with an ADU or an ADU under contract or a mother-in-law apartment existing that's legal, that's a great investment property. In the early years of my career, I sold a number of apartment buildings up to 30 units. And those have all turned institutional now with the investors, because I saw one close that Mark Jensen closed just a few weeks ago. It went for $300,000 a unit. So how they ever will make money on that, I don't know. Maybe they're just playing the appreciation game, the long game. But yeah, for most of us that don't have several $1 million to do that, if you're looking to invest, I think the first thing would be, if you're staying in your house and you can turn it into an ADU or a mother-in-law and get some income that way, that's the best way. Or look for something that has the potential for that.
Monique, you mentioned one thing I want to ask you to expand on it with the 25%. Talk about that for somebody who may be interested in investing, and what you said about 25% down.
Yeah, so traditionally you only needed to put down 20% to buy an investment property, but rates are so much more favorable if you put down 25%. And I'm finding that to be kind of the threshold where property is cash flow in our area. It's very different in other places, but that's kind of the magic number around here.
So shoot for that. Kind of to wrap things up a little bit, and then obviously if you have anything else to add that we haven't covered, we'd love to hear any thoughts and any of your expert advice in the real estate world. But how does Salt Lake compare to other markets regionally about our size? Denver, Boise, are we growing faster, slower? What's their market doing? Or are we an exception, or are we following a trend?
Well, it depends on your source, right?
Mm-hmm.
Zillow 2 weeks ago said we were the number one hottest market in the nation, but looking at stats today, Boise is way up there, Austin. San Francisco used to be one of the best markets, and it's maybe a little bit contracting now. So I think we're definitely leading. We've got to be in the top 5 in the nation for sure. It's pretty competitive.
I have no data to back this up, but it seems like Idaho is now where Utah was about 10, 12 years ago, kind of a hidden gem, and a lot of money's moving into Idaho. I have a friend who has bought, about 2 years ago, bought 5 houses up in Idaho Falls. The lowest one was 140, the highest one was 162. That is unheard of now. He got in there before it kind of got hot. So we'll be hot for a while. But one thing I just wanted to add, if it's okay, I don't mean to be discouraging. There is, for everyone that has come my way and we've helped, and I'm sure Monique feels this way with a lot of people, there's a lot of challenges to overcome, especially if you're a buyer. But most people that want to buy, eventually it works out. We find something, the stars align somehow, you stay in the game and things work out. So if you have to do this, please don't let things you read on the news or this discussion dissuade you from moving on with what you need to do, because there will be a way, and that's our job to piece that together for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. To kind of sum what you set up, yes, we are one of the most competitive markets right now and really hot, but we're not an exception from everything that I've read by any means. It's good everywhere and great here. I echo what Jeff said. We see, I love being in this industry because, the closing room happy 99% of the time, make dreams come true with the home that they're moving into, the home that they're selling and moving on to the next stage in life. It's really a positive experience to somebody, go through the process and get what they want most of the time. It's a journey to get there. So Monique, anything else you would like to add?
No, you just have to be diligent and patient. Anything can happen.
And have a good agent. And 2 of them are on here with us tonight. So I really appreciate you guys' time and sharing.
I'm just wondering, could you ask about refinance?
Yes.
Many of us here just found out that we're millionaires without knowing it, right?
Yeah.
Sitting on our homes in ELPCO.
You are.
Yes. No, right. Paper millionaires. Sorry, there's a difference. But refinancing is something that people can do if they're not moving or selling, but just sitting there. And I think Monique mentioned rates are pretty low now. Could you ask about that?
Yeah, Monique, you can talk about that for mortgages or and financing. What would somebody expect, and when should we look into that?
Yeah. So yes, rates are low and people are serially refinancing, but if you intend to sell your home within the next few years, you shouldn't refinance unless you really do the numbers and be sure that you will break even on the costs for that refinance before you sell. So I think people just get too excited and do it too quickly, but really it costs money to refinance. So really run the numbers and be sure that it makes sense and think about your long-term plan. That's my advice. And if you're not going to save at least 1% in interest, really think hard about it and, really run the numbers over a long run to be sure that makes sense. Because you shouldn't be refinancing every time it goes down 0.5%. It just eats into your equity too much, and then you have to start the amortization schedule all over again. So
we call those amortization schedules the refrigerator magnets, because I'm sure all of us keep those on our fridge and check off each payment every month, right? I mean, I do.
Nerds, and we do that.
So, Jeff, anything you want to add to that about refinancing?
Yeah, I love what Monique said, because I used to be a serial refinancer myself, just because you get a little bit lower rate. But I had my brother-in-law reach out to me September, so about 6 months ago. And so we got my the lender I use on the phone, and he told him, and this blew me away, if he wasn't going to stay there at least 48 to 50 months, then it wouldn't be worth it. And he's not planning on that because his son's graduating. His son's a junior in high school right now, and after his son graduates, he's planning on leaving. And so, there are some fees there and stuff. But just to have someone tell you that and show you and give you the, when you would break even is super valuable. So good lenders are worth their weight in gold, just like good titles.
Yeah, good title is important. So again, thanks so much for having taking the time. Really happy to have you and all your great thoughts and insights. And definitely reach out to Monique and Jeff if you have needs around real estate, and Jeff Larson at Metro Title. So Jason,
Thank you,
turn
Jeff.
that back over to you.